I was born without a single cry. The first thing I swallowed wasn't milk, but a golden moth that had fluttered into my cradle. The midwife fainted on the spot from terror. My father grabbed a wooden staff, ready to beat me, this demon child of the moth, to death. It was my mother who risked her life to protect me and save my soul. To be born with a golden moth must be a sign of the highest nobility. Sure enough, in the year I turned 5, my destiny was completely transformed. The old emperor fell gravely ill. The state preceptor calculated the omens, claiming my fate was tied to the throne and I was the true mistress of the inner palace. He said I was the only one who could help the emperor survive this calamity, and so, I was carried into the palace in a sedan chair, becoming the youngest empress in history. Amazingly, the old emperor actually pulled through. From then on, he kept me in the palace like a lucky charm. I was younger than even his youngest children, about the same age as his grandchildren. The emperor specifically ordered that I study in the imperial study alongside those little princes and grandsons. He called it cultivating the qualities of an empress from a young age. I was naturally a mischievous troublemaker, and I had no real concept of my status. I just felt like I had moved into a bigger, more magnificent house. The food and things I used were far better than before coming to the palace. My father was just a middling 5th-rank military official. With so many children in the family, I had never known a good life as a child. In that household, even getting a full meal required fending for myself. I scaled walls taller than me, just to pick a few sour wild berries to fill my stomach. I caught birds from the sky, and trapped rats on the ground, all just to avoid starving to death. To fight for a single bite of food, I once got into a brawl with my legitimate brother, scratching his face up. The price I paid was a brutal beating. I was nothing but an unwanted spare in that manner. When the imperial decree to crown me empress arrived, my father, who had forgotten I even existed, turned the whole manor upside down searching for me. He finally found me in a corner, nearly starved to death. On the day I entered the palace, my father hugged me for the very first time. His dark, cold eyes gleamed with a golden light. Good child, to be chosen by the emperor is your fortune. Once you are empress, never forget you are a Lin. Only if the Lin family prospers will you prosper. I was young then, and didn't understand the hidden meanings behind his words, but I clearly remember him telling me to be reasonable and understanding, that only a cultured woman was fit for the royal family. I nearly burst out laughing. I had nearly died at his hands multiple times. He looked down most on us children born of concubines. I didn't like the Lin family, not then, and not in this lifetime. So, as for my father's words, I didn't take a single one to heart. Life in the palace was incredibly free for me. Everyone treated me with the respect due to an empress. No one looked down on me just because of my age. 3 years later, the old emperor finally passed away. He went very peacefully. When the new emperor ascended the throne, I was only 8. Yet I was already the empress dowager. The new emperor was about the same age as my father, though we didn't meet often. He was quite observant of protocol. Every time we met, he would be very formal, respectfully calling me Empress Mother. He probably felt that calling an 8-year-old little kid mother was incredibly awkward. The number of times he visited after his coronation could be counted on one hand. However, I did get to see them frequently. The princes I studied with in the imperial study, the oldest was now 12, and the youngest was only 5, even younger than me. This 5-year-old little guy was the 11th prince. The first time he came to the imperial study, his big eyes darted around. Filled with curiosity, he ran toward me with his short little legs, calling out royal grandmother in a milky voice. I really couldn't handle that title at first. But then I thought, even the emperor, who is older than my father, has to call me mother, so I just let it go. Let them call me whatever. After all, I now have the highest seniority in the entire palace. Little 11 was particularly clingy to me, more so than he was to his own mother. Maybe because I was even more mischievous than him, and loved to play even more, so he was always happy to follow me around. The emperor was afraid to see me. He'd have to bow and call me Empress Mother. He couldn't wait to stay as far away from me as possible. The concubines in the harem were busy competing for favor, so no one really bothered with us. Thus, even when little 11 followed me and turned the palace upside down with our antics, no one dared to say a word. This little kid was only 5 and already knew how to exploit my status. After a while, I noticed the eldest prince hadn't been to the study for a long time. Upon asking, I learned he had been officially named crown prince and had begun learning how to govern the country. Time really does fly. The eldest imperial grandson, who once stared with wide eyes, calling me royal grandmother, had already grown up. I recalled what my father said before I entered the palace. I didn't understand then, but now I do. It turns out my father wanted my legitimate sister, Lin Yueyao, to be the crown princess and eventually the empress. He certainly is ambitious. Having one empress in the family wasn't enough. He wanted them everywhere. Perhaps seeing an unremarkable girl like me become empress gave him a lot of false courage. As soon as the eldest prince was named crown prince, my father couldn't sit still. 3 days later, he sent a request for an audience. I could have refused, but I was curious to see what he wanted. This was the first time I'd seen my father in 3 years. He hadn't aged at all. Instead, he looked more spirited than ever because I was made empress. The emperor had promoted him. He was now of the third rank, with an empress dowager in the family. My father was living a life of great success. Now, he was hoping for another empress. I sat high on my throne, looking down at this man who was my father in name only. You have grown quite a bit. Has father been well lately? We exchanged words back and forth, polite like ordinary relatives who hadn't seen each other in years. Until his tone shifted. Bringing up my sister, Lin Yueyao. Yueyao was just mentioning you the other day, saying you must be lonely in the palace all by yourself. Why not let your sister enter the palace to accompany you? She was already 13 now. In 2 years, she would reach marriageable age. He was indeed in a hurry to get her into the palace to build a rapport with the crown prince. My father treated me as if I were still a clueless little child, easy to manipulate, right? He didn't know I'd had my own mind since I was small. Let alone that I'd spent 3 years in this deep palace, watching the concubines use their schemes. I had witnessed a lot of ugly things. Since sister misses me so much, then let her stay in my palace as a female official. My father's face changed instantly. His goal was for Lin Yueyao to marry the crown prince. Being a female official is, at the end of the day, a servant's role. How could that work? It would be better to just let your sister stay for a short visit. I curled my lips in a sarcastic smile, my eyes sharp. Father, send sister into the palace tomorrow, and take her home after the Mid-Autumn festival. There was bound to be a banquet during Mid-Autumn. I would naturally send Lin Yueyao out of the palace before then, giving her absolutely no chance to meet the crown prince. The crown prince was a gentle, kind-hearted person. Lin Yueyao wasn't good enough for him, though my father was unwilling. He could only grit his teeth and agree. After all, getting Lin Yueyao into the palace was already a big step forward. The next day, Lin Yueyao was sent to my palace. I had Nanny Su arrange a remote side chamber for her, far away from my sleeping quarters. Does your majesty not get along with Miss Lin? Nanny Su was sent by the old emperor to look after me. She basically watched me grow up, and was the person I trusted most in the palace. I had nothing to hide from her. I answered flatly, it's not just her I don't get along with, it's the entire Lin household. Nanny Su understood immediately. She nodded thoughtfully, and didn't ask further. However, when arranging Lin Yueyao's dinner later, the nanny quietly removed some of the finer dishes. I had sent Lin Yueyao far away. The message was clear. But I didn't expect that after 3 years, her skin had only grown thicker. Sister, we haven't seen each other in so long. I've missed you to death. She was truly hilarious. Thinking that because I was young, I had forgotten how she used to bully me. Miss Lin, it would be better to use a different form of address. Nanny Su frowned, suddenly speaking up to interrupt her. The Empress Dowager is the most noble woman in the harem. You cannot use those outside titles here. I gave Nanny Su an appreciative look. Those words were exactly what I wanted to say. Lin Yueyao's smile stiffened awkwardly, but she still didn't let go of my hand, as if trying to create a false image of deep sisterly affection for others to see. Of course, I wouldn't let her have her way. If she wouldn't let go, then I would just leave. I stood up abruptly. The osmanthus in the Imperial Garden is in full bloom. Let's go take a look. Oh, I just remembered sister is allergic to pollen. Better you stay here. I put on a pure, harmless smile, and walked out with Nanny Su. After all, I'm still just a child, right? Isn't it a child's nature to love playing? In the garden, I ran into little 11 again. He was leading some workers to pick osmanthus flowers, saying he wanted to make osmanthus cakes. Seeing me, he ran over happily. Royal grandmother. Osmanthus cakes are so delicious. I always loved coming to the garden to see the flowers. Back at the Lin Manor, because Lin Yueyao was allergic to pollen, there wasn't a single flower in the entire residence. Only after coming to the palace did I learn how beautiful flowers could be. I stayed with little 11 watching them pick the flowers, and soon the 7th prince, Zhao Yuan, arrived as well. He gave me a formal bow, then stood by my side with his hands behind his back. Except for 11. The other princes wouldn't call me royal grandmother in private. The 7th prince was now 10 years old. He had been very steady since he was little, and now he seemed even more inscrutable. Just then, the crown prince, Zhao Jing, passed by the garden. Seeing our group, he stopped too. What are you all looking at? Brother crown prince, we're picking osmanthus to make osmanthus cakes. 11 looked up, full of excitement. The crown prince patted 11's head affectionately. Doesn't your mother forbid you from eating sweets? 11 grinned like a little fox. I'll be eating them at royal grandmother's palace. That way mother won't punish me. My smile vanished instantly. This little brat was using me as a shield again. I suddenly remembered that sticky candy back at my palace, and tried to refuse. I'm afraid of Lady Xian as well. The crown prince took the basket from a young eunuch, saying with a smile, it's fine. I'll go with you all. Well, just say I'm the one who wanted the cakes. In the end, all 3 princes followed me back to my palace. I helplessly gave Nanny Su a look, signaling her to keep an eye on Lin Yueyao. The crown prince got into the spirit of things, proposing that we make the cakes ourselves. He said once they were done, we could also take some back for Lady Xian to taste. As soon as he suggested it, everyone instantly agreed. 11 and I had less strength, so we were in charge of crushing the petals and mixing the filling. The Crown Prince and Old Seven needed the dough just as we were getting into it. A delicate, dainty voice interrupted us. Sister, I groaned inwardly. That sticky candy had found us after all. Lin Yueyao burst in. Her hairpin slightly disheveled. It seemed Nanny Sue hadn't been able to stop her. Nanny Sue followed behind with a troubled face. I shook my head at her. It wasn't her fault. Given Lin Yuyao's personality, if she was determined to get in, even Nanny Sue couldn't stop her. This humble maiden did not know the Crown Prince was here. Please forgive my intrusion. I rolled my eyes in silence. Still putting on an act. Beside me, the Crown Prince's gentle eyes flashed with an undisguised look of disgust. Since you know you've intruded, why haven't you gotten out yet? It was the first time I'd seen the Crown Prince like this. I always thought he was a gentle and refined young man. I didn't expect him to have such a commanding side. Lin Yueyao looked frightened. Her eyes turning red instantly. She looked like she was about to cry at any second, fearing the three boys might soften. I quickly spoke up. Sister, your face is all flush. Nanny Sue, take her down to freshen up. Nanny Sue caught on immediately. She stepped forward and grabbed Lin Yuyao's arm. She must have used some force, as Lin Yueyao nearly cried out in pain. She kept glancing back at the Crown Prince unwillingly, but she seemed to truly see the anger on his face, so she finally left with Nanny Sue, however reluctantly. Once Lin Yueyao was gone, the room fell silent again. The Crown Prince suddenly looked at me. Is she really your biological sister? I nodded. A bit confused. She's nothing like you, he said, pouting. Her artificial and pretentious behavior is quite annoying. I was stunned. I hadn't noticed before, but the Crown Prince was quite observant. Looking at his reaction, Lin Yuyao's dream of becoming empress was likely completely ruined. The osmanthus cakes were finished soon. Although the main process was still done by the imperial chefs, it didn't dampen Eleven's overflowing confidence. I'll take these to my mother. She will definitely praise me. I said nothing, just looked at him with pity. Whether Lady Xian will praise you, I don't know, but you probably won't be eating sweets for the next few days. Lady Xian was a typical tiger mom, having extremely high expectations for 11, so she was very strict with him. Actually, it wasn't just him. Among the princes, except for the 7th prince whose mother died early, the other mothers all held great expectations for their sons. Sometimes I wondered. The Crown Prince was already chosen. What were they still fighting for? Isn't it better to live peacefully? They were princes after all. Being a titled king later would mean a lifetime of wealth and honor, but later I realized that in this palace, I was the only one with nothing to do. When the Crown Prince was 16, the Empress found him a crown princess. She was the daughter of the general of the north who commanded an army of 300,000. The marriage was, plain and simple, a move to consolidate military power. The night before the wedding, the Crown Prince burst into my palace smelling of alcohol. What's so good about being Crown Prince? I have to marry a woman I've never even met. I knew he was just venting. Anyone would feel the same, though I was an exception. I was too young when I married the old emperor to even understand what marriage meant. I poured him a cup of tea and sat down beside him. To hold the position is to bear its weight. The Empress is doing this for your own good. I know Mother is doing it for my sake. He looked at the tea leaves swirling in the cup, his voice low and heavy. But she doesn't know that I don't actually want to be emperor. I was startled and quickly looked around. Fortunately, when he arrived, he had already dismissed everyone. Such treasonous words, if they were overheard, would be the end of him. You are the legitimate son of the Empress. You were born to sit on that throne. Since you must sit there, then you must sit firmly. I was 12 now, having stayed in the palace for 7 years, well aware of the filth at the center of power. If I had to choose a prince to be emperor, I hoped it would be the Crown Prince. He would be a good emperor. That night, I spoke a lot with the Crown Prince. Before leaving, he asked me, if I take that position and have the power to let you leave the palace, would you want to go? I was stunned. It took a while before I heard my own voice. No. It's not that I crave wealth, but all the people I know are in this palace. If I left, I wouldn't know what to do. I attended the Crown Prince's wedding too. As the woman with the highest seniority, I sat beside the emperor. The Crown Princess was a very spirited girl. She carried herself with great poise and grace. She was truly the daughter of a great general, I thought. She must have lived very freely in the northwest. I wondered if she would find this deep palace suffocating. The banquet was boring. I left early. 9-year-old 11 immediately followed me. Royal grandmother, after brother Crown Prince is married, can he still play with us? I looked into his hopeful eyes and swallowed the words probably not. He will. He'll always be your brother Crown Prince. I thought the wedding would go smoothly, under the Empress' control. But to my shock, news came early the next morning. Last night, the Crown Prince and Lin Yueyao had slept together. I was stunned, unable to speak for a long time. Last night, the crown prince and Lin Yueyao had indeed slept together. Now, Lin Yueyao had been taken in as a side consort. I was in shock for ages. It had been so long since I'd seen her. I'd almost forgotten. I had a sister who dreamed of being empress. Go and investigate thoroughly. Find out exactly what happened. Given the crown prince's character, he would never have looked twice at someone like Lin Yueyao. There must be something fishy going on. Sure enough, Nanny Su soon brought back information. The crown prince was dead drunk last night and somehow wandered into the wrong room. In that room happened to be Lin Yueyao, who was changing her soiled clothes. When the crown princess couldn't find the groom, she sent people to look for him, and the result was they saw the crown prince and Lin Yueyao in the same bed. According to Lin Yueyao, it was the crown prince who suddenly pounced on and embraced her. In the end, for the sake of the crown prince's reputation, the empress decided he should take her as a consort. I wanted to applaud after hearing that. I really felt like applauding her scheme. Even I could see through Lin Yuyao's little tricks. How could the empress not see through them? She simply had to swallow this fly. For the sake of the bigger picture, I thought of the crown princess, under her bridal veil at the banquet. Though I hadn't seen her face, she must be a beautiful woman. I suddenly felt quite bad for her. On her wedding night, her husband was in another woman's bed, but my sympathy didn't last long. After breakfast, the crown prince brought his princess to my palace to pay their respects. This was the first time I met the crown princess, Xiao Yunqi. She was very different from typical noble ladies. She seemed completely unaffected by the Lin Yueyao incident, standing steadily beside the crown prince, with a bright smile on her face. She called me royal grandmother with a voice full of energy. I had Nanny Su bestow the prepared jewelry set upon her. After paying respects, they should have left. But the crown prince said he hadn't seen me in a while. May we stay for lunch in your palace today? I was a bit taken aback. We had just seen each other the day before yesterday. We had just seen each other recently, but I knew he must have his own plans. So I had Nanny Su go prepare. The crown prince sent Xiao Yunqi away for a moment and let out a soft sigh. I did something wrong last night. I watched him, waiting for him to continue. I truly don't remember anything. Only after I sobered up did I realize the crown prince's eyes were dim and lifeless. This incident had indeed dealt him a heavy blow. I placed the crown prince's favorite thing, a bunch of grapes, into his hand. I know it's not your fault. The young man looked a bit distressed. His hand, clutching the grapes, tightened slightly. Juice splattered onto his luxurious robes. I changed the subject, asking about his crown princess. He hesitated for a long time, then replied with 2 words, attending class. I didn't know if his attending class meant he was satisfied or not. But I was quite satisfied with this crown princess. She was lively by nature, and straightforward, perfectly complementing the crown prince's personality. Moreover, she didn't look like someone who would be easily bullied by Lin Yueyao. Days passed by. The 4th prince and 7th prince both began attending court. My encounters with them were few and far between. My Yayan palace became much quieter. Only 11 would occasionally visit. On the other hand, Crown Princess Xiao Yunqi would often come to accompany me on walks and flower viewing in the imperial garden. If Lin Yueyao, with her sarcastic remarks, happened to appear, we would simply ignore her. If Lin Yueyao got too brazen, I would have her confined. As the end of the year approached, joyful news came from the Eastern Palace. The Crown Princess was pregnant. The Emperor and Empress were delighted. They decided that this year's New Year's Eve banquet would be held at the Grand Palace banquet, and I, as the venerable ancestress, would have to make an appearance again, perhaps only at such banquets. Could I see all the princes again? Seeing them, they felt both familiar and distant. The Crown Prince seemed even more composed. The young man who used to run to my palace, weeping, not wanting to marry, had truly grown up, it seemed. The faces of the 4th and 5th princes now carried a hint of worry and ambition. The 7th prince remained as silent as ever. The biggest change was in 11. The smile had vanished from his face. He was only 9 years old, yet he was forcing himself to act like an adult. Even his favorite pastries he merely picked up, glanced at, and put back down. In my memory, these young men were all so bright and cheerful, but now, they had all changed. The imperial palace, it seemed, truly could change a person. I disliked such formal and oppressive occasions. After only a few bites, I excused myself and left. This time, 11 did not follow. Instead, the 7th prince followed me out. Your Highness is drunk. He shook his head, and with a piercing gaze, he countered, Is the Empress Dowager drunk? I forced a smile, adjusted my sleeves, and shook my head as well. We spoke no more. He walked beside me for a stretch, gazing at the flowers in the imperial garden, blanketed in white snow. I stopped. Does your Highness have something to say? Tonight is not peaceful. This prince shall escort the Empress Dowager back to her palace. My fingers, hidden in my sleeves, trembled. So, there would be turmoil in the palace tonight. The seventh prince, without hesitation, revealed this secret to me, which implied it was already a settled matter. Did you participate? No. If it wasn't the seventh prince, then naturally it wouldn't be the crown prince, and 11 was even less likely. That left either the fourth or the fifth prince. I didn't ask further. These matters were not for me to meddle with, nor could I. I just felt a growing concern for the crown prince and crown princess. That night, I lay awake. My Yayan palace was terrifyingly quiet, but outside, flames lit up the sky. Before dawn, I sat by the window, watching the sky illuminated by fire. My heart heavy with dread. I don't know how long I sat there. My legs were numb. Madame Sue, carrying a basin of washing water, pushed open the door and entered. Seeing that I was already awake, she was very surprised. Did your ladyship stay up all night? I nodded. What happened? Madame Sue helped me get ready, then spoke. Last night, the golden hairpin in my hand slipped and clattered to the floor, shattering a few jewels. How could that be? Last night, the fourth prince rebelled. Many people died in the palace. The crown princess, she took a blade for the crown prince and died on the spot. I couldn't help but grasp Madame Sue's hand. What about the crown prince? What about everyone else? Madame Sue shook her head and helped me sit down. Did the fourth prince raise an army? Where did he get troops? A flurry of questions spun in my mind. Madame Sue said that the fourth prince had used a tiger tally to mobilize the city guard. The tiger tally, the emperor had personally given it to the crown prince on his wedding day. Now, it was in the fourth prince's hands. This meant someone in the eastern palace belonged to the fourth prince. Who had given the tiger tally away? It was Lin Yueyao. It was Lin Yueyao. 3 days after the crown prince's death, the snow fell heavily. I braved the cold wind and went to the eastern palace. Lin Yueyao was confined. The eunuch opened the door. She rushed out like a madwoman. I am the crown princess. I am the empress. I looked at her crazed appearance and coldly ordered the guards to seize her. I walked up to her, squatted down, and pinched her chin, forcing her to look into my eyes. I know you're not mad. Someone like Lin Yueyao wasn't so fragile. Feigning madness was just a ploy to survive. Indeed, when she heard my words, her expression turned cold. Her eyes filled with malicious resentment. Why should you, a mere lady I trampled underfoot, become empress? This imperial fate should have been mine. She was as arrogant as ever. You manipulated your way into marrying the crown prince. That was already your best possible outcome. But you were discontent, colluding with the fourth prince. The crown prince might not have time for you, but this empress certainly does. I ordered men to escort Lin Yueyao away, straight out of the palace. It wasn't until we reached the Lin estate that the carriage stopped. Looking at the long unseen home of my memories, I couldn't help but sneer. My father heard the commotion and ran out. Seeing the soldiers behind me, his face changed drastically. My father heard the commotion and ran out. Seeing the soldiers behind me, his face changed drastically. I curled my lips into a cold smile and looked at him, enunciating each word. Lin Yueyao colluded with the fourth prince, stole the tiger tally, and attempted rebellion. The crime warrants the extermination of her 9 generations. I had long since been enrolled in the imperial ancestral temple, so the Lin family's 9 generations naturally did not include me. My father's face instantly turned ashen. He rushed over and grabbed my clothes, stammering, "Wani, go beg the emperor. Save your father. This is all Lin Yuyao's fault. It has nothing to do with your father." I looked at this selfish man with disdain and pushed his hand away. My dear father. This act of grace was personally requested by this empress from the emperor. The emperor, out of consideration for me, had initially only planned to exile the Lin estate, but I had submitted a memorial requesting the death penalty for everyone in the Lin family. How could Lin Yueyao be so audacious without the backing of my dear father's influence? The soldiers, having received their orders, charged into the Lin estate in an orderly fashion. I watched as the gates of the Lin estate slowly closed and shut my eyes. All I heard were endless wails and cries. Why bother? An unexpected male voice sounded. I opened my eyes. It was the seventh prince. He was gazing at the gates of the Lin estate. I couldn't discern his expression. I averted my gaze and said faintly, "You wouldn't understand." Perhaps only I understood. I was merely avenging the girl who almost starved to death in the Lin estate all those years ago. After the crown prince's funeral, I went to see the crown prince. He looked utterly haggard. Seeing me, his lips moved. "You've come." I took out the osmanthus cakes I had made that morning from a stone box and pushed them towards him. "Try some." He reached out, picked up a piece, and slowly ate it. As he ate, tears began to stream down his cheeks. I knew he was thinking of the crown princess. That radiant woman had once specially come to me to learn how to make osmanthus cakes, just to make them for the crown prince. Alas, when love was at its peak, they were separated by life and death. Without the crown prince's health declined day by day. He repeatedly made mistakes in court. This seemed to suit the intentions of certain individuals. With the fourth prince gone, and the crown prince losing his drive, the fifth prince began to form factions in court. Listening to the news Madame Sue relayed, I only sighed. I tossed all the fish food in my hand into the pond. Watching the precious koi fish scramble for food, my inner agitation deepened. Life in the inner palace grew increasingly lonely. Even the crown prince and seventh prince never again set foot in my Yayan palace. Soon, it was my birthday. Due to my status, it wasn't appropriate to make a grand affair of it. The emperor said it would just be a simple family banquet for everyone to gather. At the family banquet, there were even fewer people than last time. The emperor didn't have many sons to begin with. Now, only the crown prince, the fifth prince, and the seventh prince remained. This struggle for imperial power seemed to have ended when 11 left the palace. But I hadn't expected the crown prince to voluntarily give up. The family banquet ended, everyone had left. But the crown prince returned. Everyone had left. But the crown prince returned. He sat despondently under the old locust tree in my courtyard, sighing. He reeked of alcohol. You say, is this imperial throne truly so important? Important enough for brothers to turn against each other and for kin to slaughter kin? I truly don't want to see such a situation. I knew he had always cherished all his younger siblings. Yet, these siblings, who had grown up with him, had one by one become enemies. His heart was in pain. The next day, news spread that the crown prince had requested to be stripped of his title. He petitioned the court to become a carefree prince in the southern commandery. Ultimately, he got his wish and went to the southern commandery, becoming the Prince of Nanjun. The court was in an uproar. Ministers repeatedly submitted memorials requesting the fifth prince to be named crown prince, but the emperor delayed issuing the decree. Half a month later, the imperial decree for the establishment of the crown prince was proclaimed throughout the land. But the choice for the crown prince came as a surprise to everyone. It was the seventh prince. When a minister brought up the national master's prophecy, the emperor directly rebuked him in anger. Even a lowly beast can be responsible for the southwest. The fifth prince was enfeoffed as the Prince of Shiping Commandery, and immediately departed for his fiefdom. This struggle for imperial power was completely over. The biggest winner was surprisingly the least likely candidate, the seventh prince. I came to the imperial study again. I still remember the first time I stepped in here. The lively faces of those young princes. It feels like yesterday. Empress Dowager is reminiscing about the past. The seventh prince always had a knack for appearing behind me out of nowhere. I turned my head and looked at him. He was still the same as before, yet subtly different. Congratulations. I congratulated him on breaking free from the so-called fate. He politely thanked me and walked to his former seat where he used to study. I was genuinely curious. What exactly did he do to make his father choose him? I sat in the seat next to him, which was once my position. Want to ask me how I won? Before I could speak, he spoke first. I nodded slightly. General Shao is my man, and the Southwest Commandery has long been under my control. I was somewhat surprised. He had hidden his true nature so deeply. Perhaps from the night of the fourth prince's rebellion. I should have known that he was by no means a powerless or insignificant imperial son. If everything wasn't already under his control, how could he have been so calm and composed? When all the dust settled, he became the new emperor. He found a moment of leisure to ask me, now that I am emperor, if you wish to leave the palace, I can help you. The crown prince had asked me the same question before. Now, that carefree prince should be enjoying himself in the southern commandery, shouldn't he? Now the new emperor asked me the same question. I fell silent. In the past, I would certainly have considered the imperial palace as my refuge for the latter half of my life. But now, all the familiar faces in the palace were gone, and it seemed to have lost much of its meaning. I thought for a long time, but couldn't think of a good place to go. So I tossed the question back at him. Where can I go? He paused, seemingly surprised that I would ask him. After a moment's thought, he replied, this year, the Southwest has had favorable weather. Many new and interesting things have emerged there. Why not go there and take a look? I pondered for a moment and nodded, all right. I'll go there. On the day of departure, my carriage set off grandly. As we reached outside the city, it suddenly stopped. I lifted the curtain, and what greeted my eyes was the emperor in full regalia. Why are you following this empress? I am going on an inspection tour of the Southwest and thought I'd escort the Empress Dowager for a bit. Sunlight dappled through the tree shadows, falling on him. He smiled, looking serene and harmless. This was the first time I had seen him smile so brightly. The path ahead also seemed exceptionally bright. This journey to the southwest would probably be an interesting one. From the time I could remember, I knew my imperial concubine mother didn't like me because of the national master's prophecy of a unique destiny for me, that I could be responsible for the southwest. I lost the right to contend for the throne. And my imperial concubine mother also lost the opportunity to become the most noble woman in the great kitchen. When I was 5, my imperial concubine mother committed suicide. Her dream was shattered and her will to live was gone. I felt no pain at all. It was as if a stranger had died. I was adopted by the empress. She had her own son, and was only superficially polite to me. When I was 8, I heard that the imperial grandfather had married a new empress who was only 5 years old. A 5-year-old woman had achieved the lifelong unfulfilled wish of my imperial concubine mother. The first time I saw this tiny imperial relative, she was as thin as a kitten. Not very pretty. Later, she came to study in the imperial study and sat right next to me. She always dozed off during class, but Father Emperor dared not punish her. I suddenly felt that imperial status was indeed a wonderful thing. We sat together in the imperial study for 3 years as classmates until the imperial grandfather passed away. She became the empress dowager and no longer came to study. That time I ran into her in the imperial garden. She was standing under an osmanthus tree, her round, chubby face like a steamed bun. She was a completely different person from the kitten she was 3 years ago. On an impulse, I walked over and stood beside her. Later, in her palace, I witnessed her first scheme. That was the first time I saw her resort to petty tricks. With just a few words, she drove out her annoying elder sister. I sent someone to investigate her. It turned out she was also a cat that could bite. Watching her lead people to raid her own home. Watching the stern expression on her face, I silently smiled. Perhaps this was her true self. I asked her which prince she favored more. Even though I already knew the answer, when I heard the crown prince's name from her lips, I still couldn't help but feel a bit displeased. This throne would ultimately be mine. Years of meticulous planning. I was not as insignificant as I appeared on the surface. General Shao was my man. The Southwest had been my territory since my birth. I really should thank the national master for that prophecy, which gave me the opportunity to secretly accumulate capital. I was so capable. Yet she still chose the crown prince. She truly had no vision. When everyone thought the throne was settled, I went to see Father Emperor. I asked him to name me crown prince. He was initially unwilling, but after weighing the pros and cons between me and my 5th brother, he still chose me. Fortunately, he was a smart man. After the dust settled, I admit there was an element of showing off. I just wanted her to know that she had misjudged. But she seemed indifferent to my victory, merely offering a faint congratulations. Having grown up in this deep palace, she knew its intricate ways best. I suddenly felt it was truly a pity that she grew up in this palace. She was no longer cute at all. I asked her if she wanted to leave the palace. She was still young. She shouldn't waste her life in this palace. I thought she would go find the eldest brother. Unexpectedly, she tilted her head and asked me where she could go. I blurted out, telling her to go to the southwest. As soon as I said it, I regretted it. I blurted out, telling him to go to the southwest. As soon as I said it, I regretted it. If she didn't agree, how embarrassing would that be for me? To my surprise, she agreed without a second thought. A wave of joy welled up in my heart, but I didn't show it. I had thought of countless ways for her to die unexpectedly outside the palace, but in the end, none of them felt right. Such a vibrant person. I actually felt a pang of reluctance. I suddenly wondered what she would do. If she went to the southwest, who would she meet? The thought bothered me so much that I didn't sleep all night. I had been to the southwest many times, but I felt that going with her might be very interesting. On the day of farewell, I left many confidants to protect her. As her carriage gradually moved away, my heart felt empty. That cold imperial palace truly seemed to have lost all warmth. When my attendant reported that a carriage was chasing us from behind, I thought it might be assassins. I also thought it might be bandits. I never expected it to be him. He poked his head out of the carriage, looking up with his small face. Tired of playing in the southwest and seeing you lonely, I've come back to accompany you in the palace. In that instant, my empty heart was instantly filled. The journey home also seemed to become warmer. Over the years, familiar faces in the palace had either left or died. The only one still connected to me, it seemed, was him. If we set aside our souls, he and I were probably what the books described as childhood sweethearts. We should be lovers. Inseparable lovers.